She was Miss Ghana USA in 2010 and has a passion for young girls, women, and youth. She's expressed a strong desire to help the community that her family is from in the Volta region, build a community school, a community center, possibly an arena that will help the young people and help the community have a place that they can develop their minds, develop their communities, and just have a place that can help them move forward in the future. She's also a popular radio host on YFM, one of Ghana's popular radio stations with a largely youth-based audience. She's known not to shy away from topics of sex, love, and relationships on the radio, as well as on her YouTube series, Love Is. This year, in honor of World AIDS Day, she and her team also spent a day educating youth on HIV and AIDS awareness. She is poised to be one of the leaders of the next generation of African women. Today, my guest is Agnes Ntow. We're sitting here at Jamrock Restaurant outside in East Legon, so you're hearing a lot of sound around us. The breeze is blowing. It's a really hot morning, but we're here to have a fantastic conversation and learn more about Agnes and what she's doing for her community, for Ghana, and how she's one of the people in the diaspora that's making a change in the continent of Africa. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You know, the first time I met you, and I don't know if you even remember, because you were working, it was in Osu. It was when you were working with Viasat. Mm-hmm. And there was like a beauty pageant. I don't know if it was Miss Ghana or what it was, but there was a runway outside on the street. Mm-hmm. Models going up and down.
Yes, I do remember.
Yes. And you were working
yes.
for Viasat at the time. And
yes.
I saw you instantly. I thought, wow, this young woman is so beautiful. And I saw that not only were you beautiful on the outside, but there was something about your spirit. Even though we hadn't had a conversation, I just watched how you were working, and your eyes, something about your eyes have a depth in them that show this spirit of love, of compassion, and of a real, genuine human being. And I saw that in you the first time I met you.
I don't know if you can see I'm tearing up right now, but that means a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. But that is exactly what I thought. And I was like, I have to meet this young woman. I introduced myself very briefly. You had your mic and you had to go do something. And we just spoke for like a minute, gave me your card, and then you went back to work. And then ever since then, we'd run into each other at places and get together once in a while. Not enough, but we have a few times. And when I was thinking about doing this podcast, you're one of the people that I definitely wanted to talk to. So thanks for making the time today.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Now, I want to go back to before Ghana. Tell us about, you were in Chicago,
yes.
and what drove you to come to Ghana of all places.
Yes, well, you are, and it's funny that we're sitting here in December, because I know you and I, we do our reflections.
Yes.
And so thank you for this end of the year reflection that you're about to have me embark on. But I had just graduated from college in 2009. Then I jumped right into the Miss Africa USA pageant. And then, let me backtrack rather to 2001. We took a family vacation after my middle school graduation, right before I got into high school. Mm-hmm. And we came to Ghana. And it was just something about this place.
Really?
Yeah, at that point in time, that just was speaking to me, saying, you have to come back.
At that age?
At that age. I was
wow.
13. So I knew I would come back. I knew I would be working here. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know I would come back so soon.
Right.
In my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'll be 15 and I'll move to Ghana.
For retirement or something.
Exactly, you know. And no, after the pageant, I was supposed to go back to school, but I didn't have enough money. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because where I'm currently working, it's not a passion of mine. It's not what I really want to do. Mm-hmm. And I do not want to be stuck in this world wherein you're just coming in to make money and then you leave. Because when you get stuck in that world, you can enjoy being in it, but you're not actually fulfilling the purpose that, you were put on earth to do. So in November of 2010, I left that job. I was a receptionist at a restaurant. By the way, I love doing hair. Mm-hmm. I can do hair. I can do anyone's hair.
I didn't know you did hair.
I did. In high school, I used to braid hair. That was like, because I was so young to work, I couldn't, work at Joel Oswald.
Right.
So in order to make money, I would just braid the girls at my school their hair and make like $50, $60, $80, and that was it. So I took that passion into going to be the receptionist. Okay, this is not it for me. I don't want to pursue this route. So I said, okay, I'm going to leave, and I want to start creating our own stories. Africans in the States. I mean, we have a lot to talk about, so why don't I just jumpstart that? And I did that by doing an online radio show.
Did you?
Yeah, called My Mic Sounds Nice. It was myself and my best friend, and we would play high life music, hip life music. That was like the way for us to help introduce the sounds at that time, and even prior to that, I was also doing my college radio show, Passport to a World's View.
Right.
And I would play like music from all over the world. And it got to a point where I stopped downloading other genres and just stayed with our genre. So at that point in time, funny enough, I was just, putting out things about Ghana,
So you were already prepping for your career in radio back then.
Yeah, that's what's so crazy. Like, now that I think about it, it's exactly what I was doing. Because then at that point in time, too, especially on WLUW, Chicago Sound Alliance for Loyola, I would interview Ghanaian acts.
Really?
Yeah, especially the ones in Chicago. I did JQ, who was a producer from Ghana, who would go back and forth between both coasts. I interviewed him. I wanted to interview Basketmouth. I almost had the opportunity of doing it.
Oh, wow.
But, so yeah, and at that time, too, I noticed that change in where the world's eyes had now come back to Africa.
Which is really interesting because for a lot of people in the African American community and with Africans who are living in the United States or in other parts of the world like the UK or Canada, a lot of young people talk about the struggle growing up as an African kid versus the local American, Black American, or the in the UK, whatever it may be. It's like you feel like, oh my God, African is not cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because at a point in time, I would get teased in like middle school. Oh, you African booty scratcher. And I'm like, well, what's an African booty scratcher?
Right? What is that?
What is that?
Who made that up?
Saying that. But I appreciate my parents so much because outside of the house, it was America. But inside the house or at any relative's house, it was always Ghana. My dad was one of the founding fathers of this thing that we call Ghana Fest. So once a year, we celebrate the Ghanaian culture
in Chicago. Wow.
Yeah. And my dad was also a founding member of the Ebe community. At that time, it was called Milenovisi Habobo. And they would have meetings out of my dad's house on 6824 South Harper.
So you'd see people coming in and out on a regular basis, I'm sure.
Born.
Oh, you weren't born yet. Okay.
I wasn't born
All
yet.
Right.
My dad, I think that was like 10 years prior to me coming. No, so at that time, I wasn't around, but just growing up and hearing those stories, it only makes sense now as into why inside the house was always Ghana. We were always in the Ghana Fest as little princesses, ushering our parents, through the procession. We would dance traditionally, bobobo, abaja, all of these things. And so our parents made sure that, okay, you may not be living on the continent, but we're going to make sure that you learn all of these, traditions about your culture so that it never leaves you.
So it prepared you for when you finally made the move here.
It really prepared me for this move, and I can't thank my parents enough.
But did you even have any culture shock at all when you came, even though you had preparation there?
No matter how much preparation you have somewhere else, when you come here, things will still throw you off course. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Why is this happening?
Yeah. You're like, why did my parents tell me this?
Exactly, because growing up, our parents would always tell us, "Oh, Ghana is so respectful, and the people are this, people are that." And then you come here and you realize that, okay, they may be respectful unto others, but they see you and you become a threat to them, and so you get treated in a different way.
And you're also seen as a foreigner at the same time.
Exactly. So for me, I always say that when I'm here, I feel like I'm an African American. But then when I'm back home in Chicago or in the States, I feel like I am a Ghanaian.
So does that have any effect on how you feel about your identity? Because in two places you feel a little bit different.
No. I may be upset that I'm here and I'm not treated as one of, our own. But I think after 8 years of being here, or as we say in the system, I'm just used to it, and I know, like, okay, this is how this is going to happen, or how I will be treated, and so it no longer bothers me. In my first year or two, oh yeah, I was outraged. But you get used to it.
Getting used to something that first made you outraged. What I want to know is, how did you get used to it? Was there something you did in order to get used to it and not get as much outrage when things happen? Because I'm sure that things still happen on a regular basis that were happening in the beginning.
As you know, today, as I walked in, I'm like, I'm so tired. You know what's going on here. Acknowledging that this is just human nature, and once you have acknowledged that, I don't say it gets easier, but then when someone treats you in a way that they shouldn't treat you, you understand where that's coming from.
Right.
It's not your fault whatsoever or ever, especially if you've come off in a genuine manner.
Right.
And just how people perceive you has nothing to do with you. It deals with their own insecurities.
I agree.
And their shortcomings. And so once you have that knowledge, then at the end of the day, you can ignore a lot of things that come your way. Now, there is a point in time where you've ignored so much, and the little thing can just completely upset you, can really make you mad. And I think that's also something that we need to learn how to work on, where we're not bottling all these things inside of us, but finding healthy ways to release.
Yeah.
So when those tiny things do come, you don't go haywire over it.
It's true.
So,
it's very true. Very true. I wanted to ask you, you were in the Miss Ghana USA pageant.
Yes.
You won?
Yes. So it's actually the Miss Africa USA pageant.
Miss Africa USA.
And so what they would do is you compete to represent your country.
Okay.
Yes. And so I competed and got the Miss Ghana USA title.
All right.
Yes.
So how did you end up getting into a pageant?
Yes, this one. I've always loved pageants growing up. Even after I lost the Miss Africa USA, I wanted to do Miss Illinois USA to compete for Miss America and Miss USA, and I was on my way to doing it. But
really?
Then my bank account said no. So, so
the fees involved in being part of it.
Yeah, the fees involved. It's a lot, And then at the time too, I'm like, okay, I just came back broke. Do I really want to jump into something else that could also create the same results? So I've always loved pageants growing up. My sisters and I, we would watch. It was like an event for us in the house. There's a pageant coming on. The niece would choose 3, Krista would choose 3, and I would choose 3. And we would literally compete against each other to see whose 3 made it to the final round. Yeah, so that was us growing up. And by the time I was in college, my last year, because I'd already started doing some modeling also. And I said, okay, let me take this just a step further. And then I was just on Google, and I couldn't remember how the search begun, but I just ended up finding Miss Africa USA.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. So.
What was the experience like? I have been in a pageant before, so I know what my experience was like. I'm curious to know what yours was like.
Mine, in its own funny way, showed me how life would be in Ghana.
Oh, really?
Yes, in terms of just competition.
Okay. Right.
But aside from that, I would not trade my experience for. I loved every minute of it. Every single minute. Because even the girls that I made friends with back then, 10 years later, we're still friends. And so I have bestie in Liberia. I have one in Sierra Leone. I have one in Cameroon, a few in Cameroon.
That's amazing.
One in Kenya.
That is amazing. Because of the fact that they were representing all these different countries, it's like you've got this continental reach now.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So even back then, we always do, okay, if we don't win the final title that we're all going out here for, just the connections, the network that we've been able to do, that means so much more.
It does.
Especially seeing how the world is now moving and how our careers are now moving. If I want to go to Liberia, which I was there last year.
I remember we went there. Yeah.
I just, hey Nikita, I'm coming. Or Kenya. And so that in itself was also a blessing, just, having someone based there, so then you can they can show you around and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's good.
How was your experience?
My experience, oh gosh. I really enjoyed it because I was actually modeling myself. And with doing the pageant, it was Miss Black Ontario, so it was in Canada. And I had made some really good friends as well. There's only a couple of them that I've maintained contact with over the years that we still connect. One of them actually wants to come to Ghana next year. And I had things stolen from me, actually. So I had some of those experiences that people talk about with beauty pageants and people trying to sabotage you.
That's exactly why I said it gave me an idea of how this country living here would be. Yeah.
I had somebody steal my shoes that I was going to wear with my gown. I had someone steal my bra because it was like the dress would go deep in the back and I had a bra that would go down as well so you wouldn't see someone. It was like, I was like, who steals underwear? You know?
Somebody who knows that you're a threat. Literally, yeah.
So yeah, I had a great experience though outside of that happened because meeting some of the young women. And then I also learned that, you know, everybody has their own talent because they always talked about having a talent.
Yeah.
And you always thought about it being singing or playing a musical instrument or dance. I actually recited poetry.
Okay, so this is the funny part. Had I made it past that round, I would have done the same thing too. So poetry and dancing at the same time.
Yeah, I did. And Still I Rise.
Ooh, Maya
Angelou.
Ooh.
And it was, so I kind of acted it out. I moved around on the stage while performing the poem. So that's what I did for mine. I was third runner up.
Congratulations.
And so yeah, it was a great experience. I wasn't upset that I lost. I mean, I was upset that I didn't get to win the money.
Yeah.
There was money and there was a car and a trip and stuff. And I was like, but it was
But
a
you still
it was
got
a
a
good
title though. Third runner up. So
So it was a really, really good experience. But yeah.
How did we never share this piece of information about ourselves? We've been friends for some time.
I know. Isn't that interesting? The things when you talk and find out about people. So I want to know about room service.
Yes, my baby.
Your show on YFM.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people tuning into you on a regular basis. You have interesting conversations there. How did you get into doing this type of conversation? Because did they have a segment like this before?
They did.
And how is yours different?
Okay, so the showroom service had always been around, and in the year 2013, I went in to apply for the job through DJ Kess, and then at that time, Jeremy went to Live FM, and Caroline was going to Y Lounge, and so room service, they needed someone to host it. And I'm like, I'll do it. I love, you know. I really want to do it. So I expressed great interest in it. And my boss said, okay, fine. You can take it over. So for me, I had listened to maybe a show or two when Caroline was doing it. And I knew immediately coming in how I wanted to change that format. For one, I wanted to just now change the songs to being R&B and slow jams based off on what I would listen to growing up in Chicago, B103, you know, WGCI, Whispers in the Dark, those kind of shows where, you know, the genre was just revolving around R&B slow jams. And so I wanted to do that. And then I'm like, okay, I think it'd be really cool to come on and like also, you know, my voice, I want to just bring it down a bit deeper, a bit lower.
Yeah, you sound like some sexy woman on the radio. And you are. But it's like you're turning it up.
Yeah, because I want to put you in the mood.
Yes.
You know, I feel like at that time, you know, if you're not making love or having sex, then, because I used to fall asleep listening to those guys. And, you know, it's like you're rocking me to sleep. So any which way I can be able to accomplish that goal, that's what I'll take to make sure it happens. And so that's why my voice is also extremely low. And my sisters would tease me when I was younger because I would wake up and my voice was always deep. And like, oh, you sound like Barry White. So now I'm putting that to use. So that was how we started off with that. And then later on, I think it would just be like messages coming in from listeners saying, oh, I have this issue, can you help me? And I'm like, okay, sure.
The messages would come through like social media or something, or they would call in?
Call in or social media.
Okay.
You know, it would start off with, oh, please, I'm looking for a girl. Must be my type, you know, 20-something years. And I'm like, oh, Lord.
They're trying to find a date
on
the radio.
Yes. You know, I'm like, okay, all right, I can assist with that. Let's see what we can do. So just throughout the years, we've been able to just based off on what the listeners send in, just be able to create, certain content to help facilitate what we got going on.
Okay.
So.
How do you feel doing a show where you talk a lot about love and sex and relationships in the context of being in Ghana? Because even though people are engaging in all of this activity, people like to talk like they don't. People like to be private and secretive and don't want you to know that, they're having sex with this person or that person. Or how do you manage doing this type of show? And do you get any criticisms from people because you're doing this show?
Yeah. I can be honest, right? I really don't care. I really don't. Just growing up, I've always been either picked on or criticized for doing one thing or the other. And I'm like, all right, whatever, So for me, at the end of the day, if I'm satisfied with what I'm doing, I'm happy with what I'm doing, and I know that in some way, some shape or form, we're bringing change positively out to the, society, then I could care less what you think, especially also when it could be just one message that you receive that says, I really love your show. Thank you for bringing on this guest. Then I know, okay, it's not only this one person, but it's others who are just too shy to send in messages that we've been able to help by bringing forth this topic or this segment. So, if it feels good from the heart, if it's coming from the heart, then I know I'm doing something right. And so I just continue to push through with that. So,
what are some of the most memorable shows that you've had? Anything that particularly sticks out to you that was so riveting that you're like, I can't believe this person said this. I can't believe we had this conversation.
I'm thinking now because I feel like every week that we go on,
there's something.
Yeah. And whatever that something is, it pretty much just outweighs what happened the week before.
I can imagine because I do see you post things on Twitter sometimes, and it's like, what?
Yeah. I would say, because even the time that we had you on, remember, as a guest.
Yeah, the woman who she had a child for her sister's husband. And it was like, but the husband doesn't know.
Yes.
They had sex the day before the wedding.
The day before the wedding.
What?
Yes, and the guy was drunk, all of these things.
It's like, this sounds like a TV show.
But it's really happening.
Yeah.
And that's what I love most about this show, though. You can sit, and I always say, I couldn't write this. And it's just like, no.
It's happening.
It's happening. And I love that the most. So just to answer your question, I would say maybe what we did last week on the 4th of December, where we interviewed Tina, a young lady who's HIV positive.
Oh,
yes.
I missed that show.
Oh, I actually have the recording.
I would love to listen to it.
So I'll send it to you also.
So she's living with HIV.
Yeah, in Ghana. And initially, because we had been planning for this episode for a very, very long time. Do other mediums also, and so it just happened that now you've been able to find people who can help you with what you need done, and so I remember the aim was just and it's always been to educate because you can go around and you see billboards of don't have sex, abstain, AIDS is bad. But yet you're not telling me why I shouldn't do this. Or you're not telling me how else I can be able to contract this virus. So again, with that episode, we just want to use someone's story to help educate the masses. So I remember when she was in the studio when I first met her, you know how you can see someone and you can tell that there's no confidence within them?
Yeah.
It's the way that your shoulders are hunched over.
Yeah.
And like
the way their face is,
exactly,
their head down.
Exactly. So I remember that's how I saw her when I walked in. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, wow. You're probably in this position because, one, you're ashamed of what you have. And two, just based off on how you've been treated by the people who know what you have. So just upon meeting her, and this is just naturally for me, it's like, oh, hey, how are you? I shook her hand, And you can tell she was shocked that I shook her hand.
Right, because a lot of people in Ghana are still afraid to even be beside someone who's HIV positive.
In her story, she ends up telling us that she went to these health facilities to get tested and to run extra tests, so on and so forth. And the nurse, one of the nurses that was helping her out, goes to her place of employment and says to her boss that he needs to fire her because she has HIV.
What? That's awful.
Now, where we come from, when you take these tests, when you go see a doctor, when you go see your nurse, whatever is discussed between you and that health personnel, it's confidential.
Confidentiality.
Here's a young nurse. She's young. And she goes and tries to get this young lady fired because she has HIV. And she's saying, oh, well, you know, she's serving people at your restaurant and, you know, and it's just like, wow, so you're a young nurse and you're not even educated on
That's awful.
this issue in itself.
Yeah.
That's memorable to me because, and I'm just going to drive back at the confidence point. Now I understand why she's hunched over. And her face, you know, has this look. It's because you live in a country that preaches this and that. But the reality of it is that whatever you guys are preaching, you're not promoting that exactly. Mm-hmm. You're not living that. Mm-hmm. You know. Yeah, no, I'll give you the recording so you can listen to that. Was actually, and even how she got the virus, how she contracted it. She was raped by her uncle. But then here's the kicker. Then a few years later finds a boyfriend. Okay, and now they have sex unprotected. Between the time she was raped from her uncle, or by her uncle, and the time that she met her first boyfriend, she never got tested because she was never educated to get tested for anything. You know how we treat rape?
My mouth is wide open in complete shock right now.
You know how the rape culture is in this country, right?
It's terrible. It's terrible.
So now she probably was ashamed, thinking that it's whatever
it was
she
her
had
fault
done.
Or something.
So now she's not going to take a rape test, or is it rape kit? The rape kit, right?
Yeah.
Because even speaking with a doctor friend of mine, within I think 72 hours, you are able to flush whatever it is out of your system.
Yeah.
So just imagine, had she been educated on that, she wouldn't have the virus if she did get it from the uncle, who ended up dying later on.
So I'm sure it was.
That's what as soon as she mentioned it, I said, okay, I feel like you got it from your uncle.
This is horrible.
Her story worse.
It's heartbreaking.
Her story is worse.
Ooh, these people out here love riding by with their motorbikes and making noise. Yes.
December. What do you expect?
Yes, it's the peak season. People are out there having fun.
Yeah.
So you said her story gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse. So she ends up. She has a rash on her palm.
Uh-huh.
Goes to the doctor. The doctor says, I think you should take an HIV test. Takes the test, and indeed ends up finding out she's positive. Now she calls her boyfriend to tell her boyfriend that this is what I have, but pretty much to set up a meeting so she can disclose to the boyfriend about her status. Calls the boyfriend, and he says to her, I can't talk right now because I'm in court. Well, why are you in court? Oh, well, you see, this lady says I impregnated her and is bringing this matter to my doorstep.
What?
So now, and I have, and you know, I mean, continue on with the story. So, now here you are, you're HIV positive. You don't know exactly who you got the virus from.
Mm-hmm. And if he's infected, and now he's infected this woman who's now about to have a baby, and if they're not taking the pre-medication to keep the baby from having contracted the HIV virus, the baby will be born with the virus.
And that's how the cycle continues, because nobody here likes to get tested once they start having sex. Yes.
You know, this will segue into what I wanted to talk to you about, that recently you and your team went to a school to talk to students, young people, about HIV awareness in honor of World AIDS Day, which was the 1st of December. Is this an initiative that you're doing throughout the year, or is this once in a while you're going to different schools as far as teaching young people about HIV awareness?
We started this in 2014 or 15. We started that, and that year for February and December we went to Chester University. At that point in time, life happened for me, and with life happening, I just didn't know the direction in which I would take. But I always knew that what we started needed to continue, just based off on a story that was told to me at our last visit at Ashesi. So, to answer your question, we brought it back up again this December because obviously of World AIDS Day. But in the new year, the plan is to actually go to different colleges, different tertiary institutions to educate them on STDs or STIs and HIV.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you were there recently at the school, tell me about what exactly did you guys do? Did you do like activities to teach them, or did you have a medical person with you as you taught them? How did it go?
So I came with Dr. Mauna Hafe, and what happens is I usually just start off the show by just letting the students know how important what we're doing is. I give my own personal experiences, and then I let them know that, okay, this is a safe space. All right, we're not judging you. So whatever you have done, might have done, might want to do, and you have no idea, you just need some kind of information, some kind of answers, then please use this time with us to have those questions asked. If you want to remain anonymous, I give you sheets of paper where you can write your question, and I read that question on your behalf. All right, as long as we're able to answer all of your questions at the time that we're there. So pretty much after that's done, after I go ahead and let the students know about that, then the doctor comes on and educates the students on STIs and on HIV. So we give you that education on the different types of STIs that there are, how you can get them, as well as HIV. Once you've been educated about all of this, then we go into the Q&A portion. And that's when the students would come forth with their question and answers. This year we were supposed to have West African AIDS Foundation also come with us to do on-site screening. So in the future we're actually working on that to actually get that done.
That would be really good.
Yeah.
So then people can get tested right away.
Exactly. And then on top of it too, because even based on my personal experiences, it's challenging finding a health institution that is accurate with their information. Or compassionate. With
I would agree with the compassion.
Yeah.
There's a lack of compassion in some medical institutions here in Ghana.
Exactly.
I personally get tested all the time.
Yeah.
When I was 12 is the first time I heard of HIV. And I'm in my 40s, so that was in the 80s. And that was during the time when it was like
come out.
It was like a death sentence for people. And when I heard about it, I was 12. And I think about the fact that I think everybody should learn about it when you're that age, because for the most part, you haven't started having sex, unless you're in an unfortunate situation where we hear about things happening to young children. But at that age, for me, sex was the last thing on my mind. It really was. But I learned back then that, you can get it through sexual contact. You can get it through transmission of a blood infusion. You can get it through if the mother is pregnant and has a child. Like I learned
bodily contact,
the ways.
Fluids,
I learned the ways that you can get it. They handed us a 5-page pamphlet on HIV, and I took it home. And let me tell you, I kept that. Until I was probably in my 20s, and I was just like cleaning things out, and I saw it. But when the younger you learn, the more likely you're going to be more proactive. I think anyway. And I think it's very necessary here.
Because what you learn, we were in middle school and we started health classes, and then we started learning about that, and then it's a field trip to Robert Crown, where you learn more about it, and then you get those pamphlets given to you, then you are given condoms. That always did stay in my top drawer, just in case. Just in case you may want to explore. At least that's there for you to promote some sort of safety. So
It's challenging in this environment because people that are heavily taught about abstinence, and I understand that abstinence, yes, is the best way to not get contract anything, but we also know people are still having sex, even though that's what's being said.
and that's why we're still behind this project. Is again the stories that I hear on radio, or just through friends. No one is abstaining. No one is abstaining in this. I guess I can say in this era.
Yeah.
Be it here, be it in the States, be it in wherever you are, no one is abstaining. It's all over the place, right? And so your curiosity is piqued, and you want to figure out, okay, well, what is this about, and what is that about, and then you're gonna try it out. I've heard stories about fifth graders in the States doing it.
Fifth graders?
Ivy, yes.
That's like, what, 11 years old?
Between 10 and 11, yeah.
Wow.
So if that's the situation that we find ourselves in, then why are we still promoting abstinence? I'd rather say, I know you might get into it. And if you do get into it, protect yourself. That's it. Just protect yourself. Practice safe sex. That's it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I want to move along to your idea to build something in your family's community in the Volta region.
Yeah.
Why do you want to do that? You always hear stories about people say, I want to go to the village, I want to do this, I want to do that. Do you feel like you're obligated to, or is this something that really is a passion of yours?
It's a passion of mine because I feel like I'm so blessed and fortunate. Just knowing how my father started, to seeing where he ended up, and seeing how we now continue on with where he ended off with. I just felt like it's important that I go back to that community that he came from to just give back. So my grandfather was a chief. And so, just with him being a chief, I kind of figured that my parents or my father was given certain advantages to further pursue his education and to go abroad, which he did, obviously. But there's some people in that village who weren't as fortunate. But I feel like they're extremely talented, and if given the opportunity, they could turn out to be, better than you or better than the next person. So if that's the case, then why not help build, these facilities in that community that helped me to become who I am today? Growing up, my dad would always have us in the library. Always.
It reminds me of my dad. I know we've spoken about our fathers before, and sometimes when you say things, I think that they're very similar in certain. And he was my dad was from the Volta region too.
Yeah.
My dad, we went to the library a lot, but he also, it was like he brought the library home.
Yeah.
We had like so many books. We had the Britannica encyclopedias.
We did that too.
We had the full encyclopedia set, and then we had the macro ones, which would be like the
tiny.
The short versions of things. And when we would have discussions, he would always be like, "Go get the Britannica."
My dad.
Let's see if it's really true or not.
I say, "Daddy, how do you spell this?" And my dad would say, "Go look in the dictionary."
Yeah.
It's like, okay, or get the encyclopedia. So it's one or the other. So yeah, definitely. So I'm just back to that point. Again, we're just so blessed and fortunate that we need to give back to our community. That's the only way I can see this country ever growing out of what we are in right now. It's quite unfair if only a few of you are well educated and well cultured, wherein the rest of them, they also want to be where you are too.
Yeah.
But they haven't been given those opportunities.
That's true.
Why are we keeping them away from doing that? So yeah.
Yeah, I have heard people say that what you think is not great in your life, someone else is wishing that they had what you have.
Yeah.
So you're definitely right. We have the privilege and the ability to do certain things, so why not?
Yeah.
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 For the next generation of young women in Ghana and Africa, what do you see as something that we should be doing to help the next generation of women? Because women
That's a good question.
because living in Ghana, I don't know if you feel this way, but I find that because I'm Ghanaian, I grew up in Canada, I found that women are treated as second-class citizens more in Ghana than I felt in Canada.
That was part of the culture shock that I encountered when I came here.
Yeah, as far as equality, women's equality, here I feel like I've stepped back 25 years, sometimes 30 years.
Yeah, I was going to add on a little 5 years to it. Yeah.
So what do you think we need to equip the young women, young girls in school for the future to help change that dynamic or improve the dynamic for them?
I'm just going to use myself, what I've been through, to help answer that question. I remember growing up and being told, oh, you can't do this. You can't do that. And my dad would always, oh, no, you can and you will. So I think the first thing is to remove can't out of people's minds and figure out how you're able to do whatever it is that you want to do. Because once you start doing that, then you realize that the ambition that you have within you just continues to grow. And then you want to, once you've accomplished this thing, then you want to do the next thing, and the next, it's just that self-satisfaction that you get from being able to accomplish certain things people say you cannot do. So I think that would be one of the ways in which we can help the younger generation of women coming along. And it's funny that I also say that too, because I can tie that into what I faced when I moved here and what I still do face now. It's a male-dominated society, especially within our field. And when you go and apply for a job, or you want someone to invest in your plans or whatever it may be, it's always, especially if you're a pretty girl, it's always, oh yeah, I'll help you out, but you have to give me something extra.
Right? It's horrible.
It's frustrating, actually. And so for those women, have enough pride within yourselves to know that you don't need to, I say, lay it low, or spread them wide and lay it low, open it wide, whichever. You have enough pride within yourself to know that you do not have to have sex with that man who's dangling an opportunity in your face.
Yes.
If you have to compromise your dignity to get to where you want to be, or to get what you want, then it's time for you to reevaluate what it is that you really want and figure out if it's that important. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The moment you begin to compromise your dignity, you're doing the wrong thing. So to my young ladies out there who don't compromise your dignity, if a guy says, I'll help you out by doing this, and you don't feel comfortable with it, then find other ways of getting to where you want to get or where you want to go that don't include you having to compromise yourself to get there. Mm-hmm. So
we have to start talking about that also, I think, at a younger age too. Because I met a young woman maybe 2 months ago. I was in an ice cream store, and there was a young woman who came in with her mom, and they were sitting there talking, and she just kept staring at me. And I thought maybe she'd seen me somewhere, so I just said hi, and then she smiled and started talking to me. So I said, let me just talk to this little girl. So we were talking, and she's probably about 11 years old, and she said she wants to be a journalist. She wants to be on TV. And with her mom there, I said, I want to give her some advice. I said, do you mind if I give her some advice? It might be advice that you think is too mature for her as a woman. Mm-hmm. And I kind of looked at her so she can know what I meant when I said as a woman. Mm-hmm. Then she said, go right ahead. And I said to her, you are a young lady. You're a beautiful, smart young lady. If you want to work in this industry or any other industry, and if any man says to you that you have to do something that you don't want to do for you to get ahead in your job, don't do it. It's not worth it, because you have to get through on your own intelligence. And she just looked at me, and her mom was like, yes, yes, yes. She was so happy that I said it.
Yeah.
And I said it in a way that I wasn't getting explicit.
Yeah.
And saying too much at a young age that her mom may not have felt comfortable with.
Yeah.
So starting young, I think, is
And when you mentioned that, I gave you this look because I remember, again, my parents gave me that conversation, not just me, but my sisters also. So I remember, like, one time we were watching Maury, and my mom turned to us and she was like, if I ever catch any of you on this show, I'll
Maury
spew you
Povich
alive.
show.
Yeah, you know. So we've always had those conversations growing up, and it's a great point you brought up. We also need to mentor these young girls one way or the other. You know, that's only if they would listen, though. So that's another challenging aspect too, because now it's just like there's a battle between us and, like, for a lack of better term, the slay queens out there, you know. And it's just like people are now on social media and they're following these girls, and they're also learning about how they're able to attain whatever it is that they've got, and it's through ways that you and I would dare not sit and say, oh yeah, sure, I'll do this and do that to get ahead, you know. So then we also have to be able to tell our stories.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. I have had a great conversation with you today. I want to ask you something that I like to ask women that I talk to. Mm-hmm. As an African woman on the move, you're a woman who's moving forward and has goals and dreams and desires. What are 5 things that you can think of that you think make you an African woman on the move, that you think other young women could also use that as their mantra as well?
Okay. Ambitious, or ambition, having the ambition, because I remember when I was moving in 2011, and I would run into friends or my family, are like, wait, you're going where? Oh God, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. And then they're like, think about it again. You don't want to do that. And I'm like, but why is everyone saying that? And then I would always say, I mean, I know what I'm going for, and I'm going to make it. I know it'll be hard, but I'm going to make it. I didn't come down here not knowing what I wanted to do. You know, I knew what I wanted to do, and one way or another, I've been able to get to where I need to be at this present time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And had I lacked any sort of ambition maybe within my 5th year and my 5th month, my 5th month in this country, I would have gone back home. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would have bought that one way back to Chicago and said, you guys were right, I'm so sorry.
So ambition, and
ambition. Yeah, African women, we have to be ambitious. And resilience.
Resilience, definitely.
Because you're going to encounter a lot of negative. Whenever you're doing something good, you're always going to encounter some kind of opposing forces. But as long as you know that what you're doing, not only the masses will be benefited more than you would, then continue on with that fight. Mm-hmm. You know, so you pretty much, you can't give up.
Mm-hmm. So ambition, resilience, 3 more.
You know, I actually have like a bunch of quotes and words written on my wall, mm-hmm. on my door, mm-hmm. that I always, you know, just look at because it's just motivation for me. Mm-hmm. And the days that I want to give up, you look at that door again and you're like, nope, this is why we started. You gotta keep going. Mm-hmm. So I would say another one that describes an African woman on the move is humility. Humility, and I would say humility because and I've spoken about this in the interview, just knowing that you're so fortunate. You've been blessed with everything that you need, and what you've been given, what you're moving forward with, is actually a gift from God. And so honor God by doing the right thing and not giving up, but also being able to treat everyone as you want yourself treated. Especially on this continent, you tend to realize that, you know, those that are seen as the low class don't get enough respect as they should. And it's just, humble yourself, because at any point in time, you could also be down there.
Yeah.
All right? So definitely, if you're on the move, you definitely need to be humble.
Okay. So you have ambition, resilience, and humility.
Integrity. Honoring your commitments with integrity. If you say yes, let your yes be yes. If you say no, let your no be no. Be honest about it.
That's a good one. That's really good one.
So, yeah. And that's something that for the past 8 years I have encountered here. And especially as women on the move, when you're trying to get something done and someone doesn't honor their commitments with integrity, it can, if you allow it, can throw you off course. Because maybe that person is that one thing that you need to connect this, this link or whatever, and then they come in and they're like, oh, I said this? Oh, I was just,
joking.
And now you're like, oh, great. So where am I going to find this person that's supposed to do X, Y, and Z? So honoring your commitments with integrity. Here's the fifth one. Bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself. That is awesome.
Bet on yourself.
Because if you don't, no one else will.
No one else will. You can be great, but if I don't see it and you don't show it to me or you don't, prove to me why you're so great, why should I help you? And I've always been betting on myself.
I see that about you.
Betting on myself. Yeah.
You push.
Yeah.
I saw an interview of yours where you said, I'm an ambitious fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely is something about you that you just keep pushing and pushing and pressing through.
Yeah. I've been fighting since day one. So I no longer use fight. It's like, it's in me now. If you know me, then you know I fight. But yeah, definitely.
Another interview I saw of you said that you had once wanted to be the Oprah of Africa.
Oh, it's still happening, just in my own right now. Because there's already an Oprah, right? So you as the Agnes, what are you going to do here on this continent? That could be directly in line with what Oprah did, but then because you're Agnes and you two are completely different, it's got to be of your own, personality, characteristic, your ideas, your dreams, those things. So it's still it's still happening. And I use that too because sometimes it's just like what I want to do, so huge that I'm like, oh, just Oprah, whatever what Oprah did, that gives you a fair idea of it, So
she's a great bar to set.
That's exactly what it is. And I remember just being a studio audience.
Oh, you went to the studio audience?
Her last year that she was there.
Oh, wow.
In October, and I sat between Oprah and Tyler Perry. And so, three rows behind, in the middle. So it's Oprah on my left, it's Tyler. And I was like, I needed to be in that space at that point in time to help propel me. Because if I didn't go, I probably would have given up at that point in time, just based off on what I was encountering then. So.
That's one thing for sure is when you're working in the media industry, pursuing careers in this business, a lot of people who are on the outside think it's so easy. They think, oh, wow, she's on TV. Oh, she's on the radio. Oh, she's in, a billboard. And they think it just comes like that. And they don't realize all the work that goes into it behind the scenes. It's hard.
Especially in this Ghana.
Yeah.
And I have to drive at that point because it's not the media houses that make us who we are. It's rather we who make them what they are. Because we put forth so much work and effort, to help push, and it's just going off on what you're saying. Sometimes I literally just came off a 16-hour shoot where I had to be producer, I had to be a cast member, and then I also, I was playing those two roles.
What were you shooting?
Love Is.
Another season of Love Is.
Yeah.
Is it going to be back on YouTube or will it be airing on one of the local networks? Or it's a secret? I'm looking at your face. Her face right now looks like she's got something cooking up.
It's a secret.
Okay.
But when it comes out, I'll be excited about it. I hope you will.
That's great. That's great. I've watched a few episodes on YouTube, and there's always interesting conversations that are happening. Like things like one of my favorites was when they talked about things not to talk about on the first conversation or the first date with somebody, and sex was like the number one thing that they were saying not to talk about. But
women were saying that.
That's right. The guys were like, one guy was like, well, it's on my mind. I might not say it, but it's on my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love watching some of the episodes.
Thank you. That means a lot coming
Yeah.
from you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. When you first came out with it, and I saw you had been promoting it on your Facebook page at that time.
Yeah.
And then I watched a few episodes, and I've watched. You have 2 seasons. It's 3.
We actually have one. See, again, this is why you have to keep pushing forward in this country, or at least on this continent. I didn't have enough funding at that point in time, so everything I've been doing is just self-funded.
I remember you said that.
Yeah, and so we did a few episodes, and then there were another few that needed to be edited, and then I dealt with someone who just wasn't telling me the right things that I needed to hear, or being honest, being forthcoming. So ETV picked up the series that season, and ETV was gracious enough to just help me out with the rest in terms of the season finale.
Mm-hmm.
So initially we had shot 10 episodes entirely green screen, but then we only had like 4 that we removed the actual green screen and put graphics behind, and then the other 5 or 6 rather were just still on the green screen. Those 6 episodes I had to, at that point in time, sort of come up with a new concept.
That's why it seemed like another season.
Exactly. So that's why now, because in the end, we're just going to pretty much, your first date, how does it go? That's like the last episode. But instead, we chose to focus on a blind dating experience. So more reality-based.
Right.
Type.
Okay.
Yeah. So ETV, always grateful to them for how they were able to come through and help me out at that last minute.
That's good. That's good. How did you come up with the concept of doing Love Is?
It was, I remember my boss would always say, you need to do a TV show for this radio show. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And that was always in my mind. And then, again, with these guests that come on. And here, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in this country. And what I love most is just being able to listen to these stories and then realizing, okay, so this deserves a certain platform. They have a lot on their chest and they need to release. So let's televise it, because for me, relationships, I think that it's something that, I wouldn't say it's simple, but we complicate it more than we need to. And being able to sit and just think about your experiences, you can learn a lot from it. That's if you actually want to, dissect certain things and then figure out what you did wrong, what you didn't do wrong. At the same time, too, though, being able to hear your experience or my experience can make someone who's going through something similar relate to it, but then also laugh at it.
Yeah.
And then laugh at themselves and be like, oh wait, have I done that too? Oh God. Okay, I have. You just laugh at yourselves and hopefully you're able to learn from it. If not, if you can laugh from it, that's all that matters to me. So yeah, so just the my guests that come on the show, they also helped me into creating this platform, which was an original idea from MTV. The show is called Guy Code.
Oh.
So I remember watching that before I moved here, and I was just like, oh, these guys are hilarious. So it's Guy Code. But for us, we've just chosen to focus on relationships and dating. So, yeah.
Well, people always are interested in relationship, dating talk, love talk, because as human beings, what is it? We date, people get married, people get divorced, there's drama, there's love, there's passion, so we just love to talk about relationships. So it's needed too, I think, here, because I think there's a lot of people just not really understanding the opposite sex, or not taking the time to understand what the opposite sex thinks, and rather they're just making assumptions.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is. Just based off on what you're saying too. I just remember me coming down here, it's always been, I want to tell our stories our way. And this is one way I can do that. So yes, it's true. People jump into certain things and don't know how to proceed properly.
Yeah. And
when you hear someone's story about something similar that you're going through, that helps you in one way, shape, or form.
Well, Agnes, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for giving up some of your morning, a little bit of the early afternoon to have this chat. I just think you're a phenomenal woman, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the projects you'll be doing in the future. I just can see it just blowing up. 10 years from now, they're going to be like, Agnes Ntow, Agnes Ntow, Agnes Ntow. People are going to be like running after you and chasing you to work with you. And you will be able to pick and choose all the projects you want. I mean, you're already picking and choosing now. When we arrived, you were busy on your business calls.
Oh, wow.
So it's already happening as we speak. But as we know, someone like Oprah built her brand over like decades. And so that's why I say, 10 years from now, I can see a lot of prosperity in your future.
That means a lot coming from you, Ivy. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to come and have this conversation with you. And, as I've always told you, we have to stay the course.
Yeah.
I also see that your future is bright. You're also going to be a success story. And
Amen.
we will be working together in
We
the
will.
future.
We
One
will.
way, shape, form, we're going to be doing it.
We
So
will.
I'm proud of you and this platform, and I just hope that you are able to find more women to come on and just help share those stories with. Because again, this is a platform that if you share a story, then someone says, "Oh wow, this is what so and so did to get here," and then it just helps them achieve what they want to do in life too. So you're doing a great thing. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And that's it for this episode of African Woman on the Move, where we spoke to Agnes Ntow, a dynamic and fascinating woman who is doing things to make change for young people here in Ghana, and definitely making an impact on people beyond the continent, considering we have social media and we have YouTube and all these sources that people can actually still see the work that she's doing here, and even listening to her on the radio online. Since a lot of these radio stations do have online availability. So she's on YFM in Ghana. If you want to look them up, it is 107.9. YFM 107.9. If you put that in your Google search, I'm sure you can find it. And you can hear her on the radio. I believe it's Monday to Thursdays from 10 to midnight, where she has her show room service, and you can hear her sexy voice as she puts you to sleep. So I hope you tune in again to the next episode of African Woman on the Move. Have a great day.